Alright, what's going on guys? Today, I want to talk about the London Mulligan Rule. And this is one of those videos that I'm making primarily because I find myself disagreeing with the majority of people who have voiced their opinion on it. So yeah, I feel a little bit differently than most people, so I just kind of want to offer my perspective. So if you're not familiar with the London Mulligan Rule, it's a new rule that Wizards of the Coast gave a test run for at the Mythic Championship in London. And in order to give pro players a chance to test it, they also implemented it on Magic Online, so all of us non-pro plebs also got to play with the rule. And if you follow the channel, you may have seen me testing Restore Balance with it, so go check that out if you haven't. You can see the London Mulligan Rule in action if you haven't already. But basically, the way the rule works is that when you mulligan, you still go down in cards like you normally would, but first you draw 7 and then put cards back on the bottom based on the number of times you have mulliganed. So for example, the first time you mulligan, instead of drawing 6 cards, you still draw 7, and then if you keep that hand, you put 1 card on bottom. If you decide to mulligan a second time, you draw another 7 cards, and if you keep that hand, then you put 2 cards back, and so on and so forth. So this still really punishes you for taking mulligans because you're going to be playing with less cards than your opponent, just like now. So it's still going to be an uphill battle. However, it also prevents games from being completely decided by mulligans alone. I mean, you can't just mulligan down to 5 and have a reasonable expectation to win. And going down to 4 is just a death sentence. I mean, that just doesn't work. I mean, if you draw 4 cards, if you mulligan down to 4, the chances of even drawing a land is not good, and you're fairly likely to just get 4 unusable cards that you're gonna stare at while your opponent steamrolls you over a few turns. So now, if you mulligan down to 4, you would still draw 7, so you have 7 cards to look at, and then you would put 3 back, so at least you can kind of sculpt your hand and try to give yourself something that's workable, as opposed to just drawing 4 and basically having very little chance of having a competitive hand. So it removes that variance. Obviously, it's still a game of variance, there's still a lot of random chance, but it prevents games from being decided by mulligans alone. Now, the concern everyone has is that this rule is going to enable degenerate combo decks. Because you get to look at 7 cards every time you mulligan, if you build a deck with an unbeatable turn 2 or turn 3 combo that only requires, like 2 or 3 cards, then being able to mulligan, look at 7, mulligan, look at 7, mulligan, look at 7, being able to just constantly dig through your deck like that when you mulligan is, it's kind of crazy, and it could help those really crazy combo decks just very consistently find their pieces and win on like turn 2 or 3 every game, and that's definitely not good. Now initially, I thought this concern was a little bit overblown. I even mentioned it in the deck tech for the Restore Balance series that I just did. While it's true that it does allow people to dig for combos, it also allows people to dig for sideboard cards to counter those combos. And I was sort of right. I have heard from a lot of Dredge and Arclight Phoenix players that basically everybody has graveyard hate all the time. Like, it's so difficult to play Dredge right now, from what I hear. Again, I'm not playing it myself, but I've heard on social media, I've heard from people that play Dredge that basically you just can't rely on your graveyard at all. Like, people are going to have graveyard hate every single game, and that makes it very difficult. So in a lot of ways, this actually helps against those degenerate combo decks. However, the rule has also allowed new degenerate decks to be built, and they're pretty wild. The big one is a Gristlebrand Reanimator deck, which basically already existed, but has surged in popularity with the new rule. Basically, on turn 2, you reanimate Gristlebrand with Goryo's Vengeance, and then you can combo your way through multiple combat steps by casting Fury of the Hordes. Like I said, the deck already existed, you might be familiar with it, but it was kind of like this over-the-moon improbable combo that could technically work, but often didn't. It just wasn't very consistent, and now the deck can very consistently go off just because it gets to mulligan so much until it can find that perfect hand. And the major enabler for this and the other combo decks is actually Sarin Powder. Sarin Powder is, well, it's a little bit busted. Sarin Powder says if it's in your hand when you mulligan, you can exile your hand and draw that many cards. Now, the problem with this card is it wasn't designed with the London Mulligan Rule in mind. Before, if you mulligan down to 5, for example, and you hit this, you would get to discard your hand, but you would only draw 5. But because we're drawing 7 cards with this mulligan roll test, you basically get to draw 7 even if you're down to like 4 cards. Like if you mulligan 3 times and you're at the point where you would have a 4 card hand, if you have Sarin Powder in your hand, you still get to discard that and draw 7 again. And that's where it's getting a little bit iffy, because this is allowing people to just dig and dig and dig and dig. It's kind of crazy. You just get all of these mulligans, you hit these Sarin Powders, you mulligan again. You can get through like most of your deck. You get so many chances of regular mulligans plus Sarin Powder mulligans to get those combo pieces. And then it's being combined with Pull from Eternity. So when you discard your combo pieces to the Sarin Powder mulligans, you can then put them in your graveyard like with Gristlebrand, and you can still combo off on turn 2 or whatever. And that's pretty broken. It's not a good interaction. Without question, this is definitely a problem. But this is also where I disagree with most people. A lot of people are saying that the London Mulligan Rule is broken and it's going to ruin the game because this card is just too good. While I do agree that the interaction is definitely broken, Sarin Powder just was not designed with this Mulligan Rule. I don't necessarily think the Mulligan Rule is the thing that we should be looking at. I would much rather see the London Mulligan Rule implemented into the game and then just have Sarin Powder banned than seeing the rule shelved just because of one card. The Mulligan Rule, in my testing, I've been playing Magic Online a lot just to see how it feels. It feels good. It feels really, really good. It's just, I haven't lost too many games just because I mulliganed. And without question, I've still lost some for sure. I've still had to mulligan down to 5 and just been at a severe disadvantage just from number of cards. But it definitely smooths that process and just makes it not quite as punishing, which is super nice. And overall, I think it is overwhelmingly positive for the game. Like, the experience has been really good. I think the London Mulligan Rule is great. And in my opinion, it would suck to have this really good thing for the game have to not happen just because people are afraid of Sarin Powder and Wizards of the Coast is reluctant to ban it. I'd rather just see Sarin Powder banned because it's not designed with this rule. It's a little bit iffy. That card needs to go. Banning that card, no big deal. And then we can have this really awesome rule that is, it just makes mulliganing so much less punishing, and it's just nice. It's just, like I said, it sucks to lose to mulligans, and this doesn't fix it entirely, and I don't think it's possible to fix it entirely, but it makes it a little bit better, in my opinion. And another thing I want to talk about is Tron. Tron is also a bit of a problem, because Tron really only needs 4 cards, right? It needs the Tron pieces and Karn, or something like that. And without question, this is also an issue with Tron. Tron can get turn 3 Karn much more consistently. Yeah, that's also a problem. That's something that needs to be looked at. Faithless looting also probably needs to be looked at. That's not new. Faithless looting is something that people have been on the ban watch list for a while. Ancient Stirrings as well. So yeah, there's definitely things that need to be looked at. I can guarantee that there will be more degenerate combo decks that will come in the future. Like, if you look at Standard, when Standard rotates, after a really big major rotation, the first week or 2 of Standard is never an accurate depiction of what the metagame will settle down into. It's always kind of chaotic, and after like 2 or 3 weeks, then we have a much better idea of what the format is. This is the same way. The London results aren't an accurate depiction of what's going to actually happen. I can guarantee 2 or 3 weeks from now, another combo deck will come. We'll see, people brew decks with this if it actually becomes a thing. So yeah, there will be growing pains. I wouldn't be surprised if there were more bans in the future if it does get implemented, but I do think overall it would be positive. We just have to kind of, roll with the punches a little bit until the ban list kind of fixes itself. And then at that point, I feel like we'd just be in a much better place than we were before. And look, I get it. Change is scary. I have seen a lot of the other more pessimistic YouTubers practically having panic attacks because this new rule is, it's scary and, oh no, the game is ruined and all that. It's nonsense. This seems overwhelmingly positive for the game. For sure, it's going to need work, but I do feel like it's something that will just make mulligans less miserable because they just are. Mulliganing sucks. This could fix that. I'm definitely in favor of not winning or losing games based on mulligans, personally. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I'll say this though, the rule has felt great with fair decks, and I think with some adjusting and perhaps a ban or two, the rule could definitely be an overwhelmingly positive thing. And if you're one of those panicking over how the game is ruined forever because, oh no, something's different now. And keep in mind, by the way, that people panicked over the scry rule too, the scry mulligan, because holy crap, you get the scry when you mulligan. Clearly it's broken. And people panicked over the Planeswalker uniqueness rule. Remember that? I even made a video about it, but everyone was saying how the Planeswalker uniqueness rule is going to ruin Magic forever. And my video, if you ever saw that, I said, there's a chance it could be broken, but the only time will tell. We have to test it and see first. And if it is broken, then we can just revert back. It's not a big deal. But there were people who were dead set on, the Planeswalker uniqueness rule is going to ruin Magic forever, and the game's ruined, and everything's bad, and the sky is falling, and it was fine. It was fine. It's not a big deal. I feel like this is the same way. You have your kind of panicky, the game is ruined, gotta market myself on this negativity, all that stuff. But realistically, it's probably going to be mostly fine, and the ban list can be adjusted. And if worst comes to worst, the thing's broken, and we can just revert back. It's not like this some life-changing, reality warping thing. It's just a rule. We can try it. We can test it. If it's broken, it's broken. If it's not, it's not. But in my opinion so far, seems pretty good. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. If there's a lesson to be learned, if I have anything to say to you as a viewer who's watched this deep into the video, I've been playing this game for like 17-ish years, since like 2001, 2002. So 17 to 18 years. I've been playing for a very long time. And in that time, there have been many rules changes. And every single time it has happened, people have flipped their lids and they've thought like the game was ruined and just all of that nonsense. And it's never true. It's never been true. Mana burn didn't ruin the game. Combat damage not stacking didn't ruin the game. The modern format didn't ruin the game. It's pretty sweet in my opinion. People panicked over modern, like, oh no, what about extended? Modern's great in my opinion. People panicked over the Planeswalker uniqueness rule. People are gonna panic over the London Mulligan Rule. But I promise everything's going to be fine. Just take a deep breath, calm down, eat a cookie. You'll be okay. You can make it through this. I believe in you. It happens. It's happened many times in the past. It will happen in the future. No reason to panic. It's a rules change. It's text. You can always revert back. It's fine. So there we go, guys. That's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.